All right, welcome in everybody. A very impromptu, barely a podcast live that we're just streaming live here. I wanted to get EJ's quick reactions, and why don't I just share those with the world as opposed to just keeping those all to myself on a text message. So, EJ, thanks for taking a quick break to talk about a very active day by Ryan Poles on Waiver Wire Day.
Indeed, I am glad to see it. The roster needed it. We were all hoping for it. I don't know that we necessarily saw the positions that we'd like. We could talk about that, but I'm glad to see the activity. This is not a top of the NFL roster. This is a bottom 5 or 6 in the NFL roster, and there's a lot of talent out there that got set free. Really happy to see Poles and staff go be active, culling through that list, finding folks that can help the Bears in many cases this year.
And if you make a claim on the waiver, that is to the active roster, correct? So this is going to result in 6 players being cut from the active roster, or at least 5, right? One player, we think N'Keal Harry probably goes on IR. So I think that saves one of those spots. Maybe there's another spot in there that goes to the an injury designation at some point to return. But there's going to be a few players that made the roster yesterday that are going to be released, and potentially there's a practice squad spot for them. But that's that snip snap kind of thing that happens here at the waiver deadline. If you're on the bubble, you're not necessarily safe, particularly for a team like Chicago, who is going to be active on the wire. We were hoping would be active on the wire. We didn't know. We don't have any data on Ryan Poles, but so far so good with that. So let's go through some of these guys. Let's do some quick hitting. We'll have more time for deeper analysis, but you've studied all these guys when they're coming out in the draft. Let's start with the big headliner. That's Alex Leatherwood, first round pick last year. I remember talking about Leatherwood on the lead up. Neither one of us necessarily thought he would go that high. It looked like a little bit of a higher draft pick than what maybe his profile suggested. But this is giving up on a guy with a ton of talent real early. So what can you tell us about Leatherwood?
You nailed it. This is a guy that has a ton of talent. He's not unlocked it at the NFL level. I think probably a better guard than a tackle. That's the question on everybody's mind, is where is he going to play in the NFL? His tape at tackle has been not great, and that might be putting it nicely. He's had a lot of struggles there. He, by all accounts, I've never had the chance to meet him or talk to him, but folks that have, including Duke Manyweather, talk about a player that is extremely cerebral, very, very smart player, inquisitive, understands the game. And sometimes, as you know, reaching those players can be difficult. The mesh between coach and player, when the player is extremely smart, has to be a certain way. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And for whatever reason, look, yesterday was a bloodbath for the Mayock Gruden draft pairing in Las Vegas. It was kind of the final destruction of a lot of their choices, and that legacy is really poor and will go down in history as one of the worst. Leatherwood sort of gets caught up in that. New regime doesn't have any ties to him. Lots of talent there. Interesting to see if it can be unlocked. I think it should be at guard, given what he's put on tape so far in the NFL. And I do think he has a real chance to succeed there if the offensive line coaching staff in Chicago can find that unlock. We are not talking about an untalented guy here. He was a first-round pick for a reason, probably a little bit too high, in our opinion, like you said, pre-draft. But this is not a guy that would have lasted through the second round. That's a legitimate NFL level of talent. Be really interesting to see if the Bears can plug it in on the interior and get something there. If they do, it's a massive value. You get the guy basically for free. So interesting, fascinating to see the new coaching staff pick him up. There's certainly a space for him. It's not like the Chicago offensive line is overflowing with talent right now. And if they hit, they're going to look like geniuses on this one. If not, no big deal.
Probably a corresponding move with one of the rookie guards that they got late in the draft, like a Jatir Carter or Zach Thomas, that feel like maybe they could bring back on the practice squad. So we'll look for that corresponding move there. I want to move on to Armon Watts, division rival cut here, guy that, the Vikings fans liked. What do you know about him? Where does he kind of fit into this defensive line rotation?
First, a clarification, not Armon Watts, Armon Watts. So Armon Watts, safety, out of I want to say Texas A&M, and Armon Watts, who I really like, nose tackle, or let's just say defensive tackle, out of Arkansas. I played for the Vikings, as you said, is familiar with the division, was a surprising cut to me, given that on the initial depth charts, and we all know those are a bit wonky in the offseason, the Vikings had him as a starter. So something happened between then a few weeks ago and now where they thought either they could sneak him onto the practice squad, or they just didn't want him for some reason. I don't really understand that, because if you look at the tape, you see a guy that has really good hands, good pop, good punch, has great ball vision on the inside. That's one of the things that stands out about his game to me, is he's never not locked on whoever has the ball. He's not a guy that gets fooled by fakes, not a guy that gets fooled by play action, works his way back into holes to make stops. Not much of a pass rusher, but in terms of like straight pass rushing talent on the interior defensive line, not typically guys you're going to see getting cut. I think I'm low-key excited about this. This is an under-the-radar pickup where he's going to eat a lot of downs on that interior defensive line for the Bears this year, and he's going to be able to do that right away. Be fascinating to see where they place him in that new defensive front that came with them from Indianapolis. Either way, this is a talented young player, good hands, good power, good vision on the inside, clogs up running lanes. The Bears need all that. I'm surprised they got him, but I'm happy about it.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to give Lesser a hard time for having the name typed wrong in the article. So I already shot him a text. Anyway, Armon Watts. It's now corrected. So let's talk about defensive back Josh Blackwell. What do you have on him that we should know about? Anything
Nothing
major? Okay.
Nope. I'm going to be completely honest. I have nothing on Josh Blackwell, and I'm surprised. This is what you said at the top, is that these are active roster spots. You can't grab these guys and stash them directly on the practice squad. That's how these claims work. I'm interested in what they saw, the new coaching staff, what they saw from Josh Blackwell that said he is markedly better than anything we have in the secondary right now, because he hasn't stood out that way to me. I'm certainly going to go back and take a look at what Philadelphia, where he played in the preseason. I can go back and look at those games. And, they just brought on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So they had to do the same thing. They had to bump a guy off. And, it seems like that guy's probably Blackwell among others. But no, don't have anything yet. More later.
You said kind of the same thing about Trevon Wesco. Didn't have much on him. It was pretty curious that the Bears only kept a couple tight ends on the initial 53. Kind of anticipated maybe something like this was going to happen. Obviously, Tongas has the fullback and tight end, split roles here. So curious if he still sticks, or if this is maybe a spot where he gets that roster spot taken from him and maybe comes back on the. So again, we don't know the corresponding moves yet, but tea leaves to be read there. I read this name and I thought it was the opposite. So is this correct? Is it Kingsley Jonathan, not Jonathan Kingsley?
It is. Okay. You got this correct. This is the other edge that came out of Syracuse a couple of years ago, defensive end edge. He was the heavier player on that tandem when they came out. His buddy Alton Robinson is in Seattle as a Seahawk. I thought he had good tape. I thought he was a borderline draftable player when he came out. Definitely a developmental guy, a guy that's going to be in this position, bottom of the roster, practice squad, on, off, up to the big club, back down to the practice squad, that kind of thing. Has some skills. I, haven't tracked his development in Buffalo, but again, Buffalo has a very talented defensive line. They don't have spots for guys like this right now because they've gone out and gotten the Von Millers of the world. If you got a choice between Von Miller and a developmental DE from Syracuse, you dump this guy down. They probably hope they could get him back to the practice squad. Turns out that Ryan Poles and staff said, I think he might be better than who we have. Again, interesting to me that they would bump one of the active spots. I don't think the defensive line is super undermanned for the Bears, unlike some other units on the team. So a little curious from that direction. I liked him, didn't love him. We'll see how he develops and how he fits into their plan.
Last of the six, Sterling Weatherford. Great name. Great name. And then I saved this one for last because I know that you're excited about this guy.
Really excited about this. This was the one that sort of made me jump up and go, "What?" I just rewatched the last Colts preseason game. I think it was on late Sunday night or last night, and Sterling Weatherford popped in that game. This is safety from Miami of Ohio. So this is Dominique Robinson's teammate and a big safety. He's 225 and can run. Compares very favorably to Kyle Hamilton, the safety that was talked about at the top of the draft, ended up going to the Ravens from Notre Dame. Physically, they are cut from the same cloth. They are the same size. Weatherford is faster in some of the agility measurements. They have a very similar top speed. Weatherford is a hitter coming forward from the secondary. He's that big safety, rangy model. Honestly, the best position comparison would be the position that Brian Urlacher played at New Mexico, that rover position, which was way ahead of its time, the sort of heavy safety guy that can run, be all over the field. Many people projected Weatherford as a linebacker moving into the league. I think he's a bit of a hybrid. He's that heavy third safety that you can play up around the line. He is a dime backer that you can drop in the middle to cover people because he's fast enough. Dropping him straight in man-to-man coverage is not what you want to do necessarily, but around the line, little quick ins, outs, hooks from tight ends, things like that. And especially ranging to the edge against wide zone runs, he is a hammer. He will blast the back. He's really going to be a special teams weapon right away, much like Jack Sanborn. He's going to be a big, heavy guy that knows how to hit running down the field. So the special teams coaches are going to love him right off. But I'm fascinated as to where they will work him into the base, or, well, we're really just calling base defenses right now, because he had a lot of plays in that last game where he popped. Great range, good instincts, good hitting, wrapping up, tackling. He was all over the place. And I made a comment about it on Twitter and said, man, Sterling Weatherford is showing some things. So I was a little surprised that the Colts let him go and kept JoJo Domann, who's a similar player that they got from Nebraska, kind of a big safety linebacker hybrid. I thought Weatherford had better tape than Domann in the preseason, but again, we don't get to see all the things that go on in practice. I think the Colts thought they could stash him. I don't think they thought he was going to get claimed. And, many of their compatriots who are now on Eberflus's staff in Chicago went, we can use that guy. He's better than what we've got. This one doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm really excited. Weatherford's going to stay on, quote unquote, the big club. He's going to stay on the 53 as a core, probably 4-phase special teamer, and going to be really valuable as a sub when the Bears go to that sort of heavy dime package.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that as we get into the regular season. And then I have a little bonus for you. I think you probably saw this, but we need to at least address that the Bears signed Kellen Ishii, however you say that name, to the practice squad. Yes, I got an instant reaction from EJ. That's why I didn't tell you before we started.
No, I didn't see this.
Yeah, it came through.
Oh, this is amazing. This is tremendous. I have hammered for this, as you know, throughout the pre-draft season. Got to see Kellen in person at the Shrine Bowl. That's when I really got sort of more familiar with this game. I hadn't watched a ton of ASU offensive line tape before last January. Kellen Ishii, extremely mobile tackle. He looks like a tight end. He doesn't look at all over 300 pounds. In fact, I had to triple check the weights when I got to the Shrine Bowl, because I was like, look, he moves really well. He looks like a basketball forward. That's cool, but he's not big enough. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? He's like 305, 308. And I was like, he can't be 300 pounds. They're like, no, he's legit 300 pounds. Moves extremely well. For a zone running attack, which we've seen much more of out of the Bears, out of Luke Getsy and his offense. This was a guy I was absolutely pounding the table for as someone you should look at. Him. A lot of people might say, oh, ASU, if you're scouting helmets, no tackles come out of ASU. Well, he's not really ASU. He's only sort of ASU as the cherry on top. He's Texas A&M, played 4 years at Texas A&M, and then got his grad transfer and went to Arizona State. So
here's the tweet. I'm just showing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it in other places, but like, let's at least like show that this is where I'm getting it from, and
All
it
right.
was shared in a chat with us. So it's got a check mark. It looks official to me.
I hope
Yeah,
it's right
I'm covering
because
myself here just in
you know,
case
I
something's wrong.
understand that this is a
But
straight CYA move, but
yes.
I will be talking with Travis Wingfield, who's a Dolphins broadcaster. Travis and I go back and forth all the time, and he was really excited when Kellen Ishii signed with the Dolphins as a UDFA. He knew I'd been excited about him. He asked me about him. We had a conversation that ended up getting put into Travis's pod, the Drive Time pod for the Dolphins, and he will be sad, I think, if this turns out to be true. I will be thrilled. This is a great young developmental tackle on the practice squad. Is a perfect place for him. Don't know why he wasn't drafted. Had the skills to be drafted for sure. His movement skills are rare. You do not see tackles that pull completely to the other side of the formation and wipe out linebackers on the move. Deach does it all the time. Like, he is rare in terms of how well he moves. Like I said, he looks like a basketball forward, but he's well over 300 pounds and, played in the SEC for 4 years. This is a guy with skills that could work his way in, even if it works out as a swing tackle. That's amazing. That makes my whole day right there.
I specifically did not tell you before we started recording because I was like, there might be a chance that this didn't catch his eye yet. So I wanted to get a live reaction.
A lot of things. Yeah. A lot of things
Love it.
flying around today. I had not seen that one. So thank you for letting me know, because that's a guy I really like and am thrilled that he ended up on the Bears. I hope he sticks. He certainly has the talent to. We'll see, but great get. And Eric Galko will be thrilled too, because Deach was one of his favorites to Trumbull.
Yeah, I remember talking about him in the draft process, and even before day 3, I think we had a little conversation about,
He's still there.
Hey, thank you for hopping on here, EJ. We're gonna get back to our lives. There's gonna be more breakdown of this stuff. Later we'll talk more about this, particularly as we see starting lineups come out and where these guys fit in down the line. But this is exactly what we wanted to see out of Ryan Poles in his first waiver wire. I was shocked to see 6. Right. But this is exactly what we wanted to see, was active churning of the lower part of the roster. Get in talented guys, see if they're a better fit for your squad. Fantastic stuff. Really excited to really dive in more to some of these players and get the regular season going. We'll get Bears Over Beers back on track here and going into our new direction with that show. I've got a lot of other shows on the channel that are going to pop. Hopefully you guys checked out Lester's first video of Sack Watch that's on the channel here. Tons of good stuff coming your way, guys. And thanks for joining us for this little pop-up, barely a podcast live stream. And we'll see you soon, guys.